What's up, YouTube? Go ahead and grab all your sculpting tools and supplies, because we're making some cool spooky stuff. And now let's get to it. Go ahead and grab a large pile of aluminum foil from last week's takeout and get into all the necessary shapes that we need. For this week's project, we are using Super Sculpey Original. It's an oven-baked clay and it's going to work great for this. Let's go ahead and wrap this shape, which is our pumpkin, with a thin sheet of clay. Go ahead and cover the entire thing and smooth it all out to your liking. We are using this wedge rubber shaper for a good chunk of this project, and we are using it to make the ribs of the pumpkin, and using our thumbs, fingers, whatever, to get the desired shapes that we need. I used about 8 ribs. You could do 6. You could do whatever your heart desires. Go ahead and take a ball stylus and smash in where the eyes are going to go. And then right here, you're going to see me go ahead and draw some circles, some swirls inside the eyes to give them some interesting texture. And dropping some little balls of clay and using a smaller ball stylus to poke some little eyeballs in there. Using that same ball stylus, I am poking in some nose holes so he can breathe. Let's sketch out where the mouth is going to be. And again, we're going to use that cone rubber shaper and another variety of tools to get our desired effect we want of the mouth. You can utilize the rubber shaper, any of the tools, to create all kinds of textures all over your pumpkin. As you see here, I am using the Explorer tool to get these textures. Let's use the X-Acto knife to cut out a leaf, and using the Explorer tool as well to create the textures of that leaf. And then with a little bit of Baked Bond, I'm going to throw that on the top of its head, an armature wire there, and just rolling out a little stump of clay for his stem. But I'm going to texture it as well with the ball stylus and the Explorer tool. Going ahead and placing it on there, and that will pretty much complete the pumpkin. Now let's move on to the next guy. This is George the Candy Corn. Getting it into the candy corn shape, very similar, using that wedge shaper to get those ribs, ball styluses, getting those eyes. A lot of these techniques are almost identical, except shapes and colors is what's going to switch things up a little bit. We're dropping the eyes in, using the ball stylus to make the holes. Except this guy, I'm giving him some eyebrows, because there's not a lot of people out there that seems to like candy corn, and George seems a little upset about it. So we're going to give him a crescent moon snake of clay, smooth the bottom down, and we're going to create that lip. And off camera, I put in his little tooth and his nose holes, but I am taking this cone rubber shaper and just giving him a tons of textures and beating the devil out of him to give him some more unique textures. But that kind of sums up him. And for the candle, it's like a cylinder. Wrap it around with some clay. Let's go ahead and get the top of that surface with a larger snakes of clay, and let's just smooth it out and have lots of fun with it. Use your ball styluses any way you like to give yourself all kinds of neat textures. Very similar to the eyes, just doing some swirls. And I'm just adding all these little balls of clay and just smushing them on there, making it look like, well, melted wax. Using the ball stylus again, dropping in some eyes, creating those textures. And I'm going to push it up into him, and that kind of gives like a recession for his nose, and some little tapered snakes of clay for the wax dripping off the top. And you can just do this all around to get the desired effect that you like. And I just threw in some in there just to make it a little tasteful. Throw in some armature wire there, because that's where we're going to put this little tapered snake of clay. I made it out of ultralight so it wasn't too heavy. And now let's throw them in the oven for a bake. We are using Full Art MAC acrylic for this whole project. Just some cheap clays you can get at your local hobby store. I am painting the majority of them black, because blacks will be their undertones for when we do our next layer of coloring. Now I am doing something similar to dry brushing, but it's still a little heavy. but you still want some of that black and those details to show through. It might take a few layers or two, which it did off camera. Take me about 2 to 3 layers to get the desired effect that I was happy with, and using white just to go over those eyes. And the same with the leaf, except I was actually happy with just the one coat with the green and the one coat of this really light brown mixture I made. Similar again, but we're using yellow. It took me about 3-4 coats with the yellow because yellow doesn't seem to want to do what it needs to do. And the same with the orange on George. Took a couple coats off camera. The techniques we're using for this whole project are all the same. As I said earlier, it just varies from shape to shape. A few coats of white, because we all know white is a pain to deal with when it comes to painting. And just do a few layers and make those eyes stand out. Behind the scenes, there was some touching up to do. And now let's do a few coats of this really off-white brown color, just to give it its vintage look. And of course, very similar to the others, just lather it on there, a few coats of it. Hit the black in there, hit the white in the eyes. And I would say we're just gonna call him done. And they are done. Hope you've enjoyed this adorable candle, who I like to call George the Corn, and this sweet little pumpkin right here. Now let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And until next time, on to their glamour shots.